video on my Balibalistic Lum style Tonto. I've been eagerly awaiting getting this knife for a very long time. If you guys follow my channel, you probably saw the original Lum Tonto Balibalistic review that was, I think, 2.5 years ago, something like that. And prior to making that video, I had already been on his waiting list for 6 months, I think. So yeah, so it's been almost 3 years waiting to finally get this knife in my hands. To me, the Balibalistic Customs, it's kind of my personal grail knife. His style of all the customs that are out there is my favorite. It just kind of fits my personal preference and style, I think, the best. It's very sleek, very aggressive. All his grinds and his handle work, I've always liked them, you know, since I started following his work, and I always kind of knew that eventually I'd want to get one, but I never knew exactly what I would get if I ever did make it on his list, because, you know, I liked every single grind that he ever made, and I liked all the handle patterns and everything else that he did. When he came out with the Lum Tonto, that's when I kind of saw it and said, if I ever get on that list, that's definitely the grind I would want. And when I saw a picture of his slotted handle patterns, I knew that was the pattern I would want as well. So basically what you see here is just pretty much a dream come true, you know, as far as a custom is concerned for me. I'll kind of go over the details of all the customization that he had done on this knife that I personally requested. Firstly, it's a little bit more significant for me getting this because in the previous review that I made, I had mentioned that the handles were kind of thick and the blade was kind of thick. And I didn't really think that was a fault of the knife. I really just felt that was Sean's personal styling cue, you know, using thicker, beefier stock. And it really worked well for the overall look and presentation of the previous Lum Tonto that I handled. But from a flipping standpoint, it was a little bit cumbersome to handle. The overall handles were a little bit blocky when you were flipping. It didn't make it impossible, but if you're used to, say, a 42, it took a little bit of an adjustment. So he actually, after that, adjusted, probably not across all models, but he made a few models that used a thinner handle stock and a thinner blade stock, and he did that for me on this particular model. So that's why it means, you know, it really carries a little bit more significance, this custom, because, you know, he took that feedback and he put it into this particular knife amongst others. So that's really cool. You know, I really like when the makers and the community engage each other like that. You know, the flippers, the collectors, the end users ultimately, you know, give feedback about the knife, and then the maker or the manufacturer takes that feedback and produces something based upon that dialogue, and that's really cool. You know, I think that's really how the community should be, you know, whether it's between flippers or collectors or buyers and a custom maker or a manufacturer or maybe like someone who's a mid-tech. You know, I think that makes the whole dynamic of collecting knives and buying knives that much more engaging and fun. So Sean definitely didn't fall short on that. He took that feedback and he put it in some of his models, and like I said, he put it in this particular model. So if you see here, these handles are a little bit thinner than the one that I had reviewed. The back end here is much closer to like a Benchmade 42 in terms of thickness. Very, very nicely rounded and proportioned handles, and it certainly did help for flipping. Definitely flows through my fingers better. It doesn't feel at all blocky or cumbersome to maneuver. So that's very cool. And then the blade stock here is just a hair thinner as well. But you know, it's not so thin like the 1/8 stock that you would see on a 42. It's still a little bit thicker than that. So still, overall still has that very strong, beefy presence, just not as beefy as the previous Lum Tonto that I handled. Sean does do latchless Ballies. I particularly wanted a latch. I always want a latch on my Bali songs because I like it for locked work. I do carry them. I like it for latch drops, and probably most importantly, it gives me the most feedback on where the bite handle is. I just can't really seem to work very well with a latchless, and even if it's marked, it's hard for me to keep track. I'm just used to having this as a touch gauge and also a visual gauge for where the bite handle is. So he went with his standard T-latch with the pin here, and the lockup is just, completely solid. Open position, closed position, completely solid, no play whatsoever. And that's really a sign, I think, of great craftsmanship. Even on some customs that I've handled before that are rather high-end, the latch is kind of loose. But I've noticed that this thing is just completely solid. And the way that it locks open and closes about equal tension as well. So that to me just shows that there's a lot of attention to detail, and his workmanship is very, very precise. The clip, as you see here, I requested this as well, and he has this 3-hole pattern. I really love the look of this, and I love the way he does his clips as well. Some clips are just like one thin piece of metal or whatever material that it's made out of, and it's just bent in a manner so that it fits onto the handle. But as you can see, I don't know if he, machines these or how he makes them, but you see how the base here is nice and thick. It's not the same thickness throughout. It's a nice thick base, and what that lends itself to is it's very solid. It doesn't bend easy. It keeps a nice amount of contact against the handle, and it just has a very solid foundation, and the look, of course, is just great as well. The spacers here, I believe, are Thai, and I think they go out a little bit longer too than the previous model I handled, so that adds a little bit more weight at the back end of the handle. Again, he went and did the slotted pattern as per my request. Absolutely love this look. I don't really see it on a whole lot of his Bali songs. I just saw it one time or 2 times, and I was like, wow, that just looks great. And if you look at the work that he did, the consistency that he nailed with the handles is just stunning. Look at that. They're completely identical. The holes are not off at all in any way. Even the way that he recessed these or beveled these the edges here, completely consistent. Even on a 42 you can see a little bit of discrepancy, and this was just completely done with absolute precision. I like how he kind of, rounded off, he radiused off the outer perimeter here, and then it has a little bit of a angle on the slots. The attention to detail is just completely nuts, and I love this look. He bronze anodized it. I could have went with a blue or purple because he does that color extremely well too, but to me, blue and purple, in my opinion, is kind of like having a lime green sport car. It's cool for a day or pulling it out once a week, but if you're going to have something long term, it might not be something you want to look at all the time. This I plan to keep really just forever, so I wanted to go with something classier and more of a quote-unquote long-term color. And the way it comes out is actually really cool. When I got it, it's very hard to pick up on the camera, but if you see the inside, that bronze color is bright and more goldish looking, and the outside of the handles where my fingers have made contact, that eventually what happens is it turns into this kind of almost this matte silver, like it looks like molten titanium. It looks really classy. If I were to take like a cloth and rub it out, it would become that gold brass again, kind of like the inside of the skeletonization, right? Kind of gives like a nice offset. But I like this look. I actually like it. It's not too bright, it's not too flashy, but it's enough to distinguish itself, and it's a nice contrast from the blade itself. So he just did a knockout job anodizing it. And the blade here is of course, the Lum Tonto. And I've noticed that each one that he does is slightly different from the previous one. This one, the one I had reviewed earlier, has this swedge here, kind of goes deeper. This one in particular, he made it a little bit more shallow. See, it's not sharpened, by the way. It just comes to a very fine point, and it's completely symmetric. The grind is just very, very accurate. This here is extremely hollow. This compound grind is just done perfectly. It's very, very symmetric. I just, pretty much flawless. Just flawless work. And it's hard to pick up again on camera, but even these really fine details, this is not just a straight edge. He took some type of, he just took the edges here, he beveled them off, just like micro beveled them. It goes around the entire edge of the knife, so it's not so like sharp when it goes against your finger. And as you see here, they run off Zen pins, but they're hidden Zen pins. So if you look, there's no hole there, no hole there. You can't see it, completely hidden. So pretty much every single thing I wanted, my favorite grind, my favorite handle pattern, my very quickly becoming my favorite color for anodization, pocket clip, and the latch. As far as how it flips, I think this model flips better than the original model that I handled. The handles, by the way, are a little bit longer too, I believe, than the previous model. I think they're like 5 1/4, so it's a very good length. It does flip pretty well. It does flip better than the last model. To be honest, I've been a little bit hesitant because this is one of the sharpest blades I've ever handled. I counted the other day just in handling this knife for the short time I owned it, and I had like something like 18 cuts on my hands. It was just crazy. A lot of them have healed up, but I was doing some work and the knife just grazed across my my wrist so lightly I could barely feel it, and it just left this long cut like completely across my arm. And the thing is just like razor sharp, and that's really not an exaggeration at all. So I've been kind of hesitant in the way I flip it. It is a little bit, it is still a little bit blade heavy, just because it's very long, and the stock is, although thinner, it carries, as you can see, there's a lot ground off here, but this is still the full thickness, and it's a little bit tip heavy as well, just because it's, this is not hollow. This is like a convex grind here. So it's still, the blade still carries a decent amount of weight, so it's a little bit blade heavy. I thought about a crazy idea of asking Sean to do these spacers in steel and seeing how that would handle it, but I don't really know if I would really change anything right away on this. I mean, I really just love it, as my own personal custom grail knife, whatever you want to call it. And I do enjoy flipping it. I don't know if it'd be my primary flipper, but it's just a knockout, home run, absolutely gorgeous knife, and really happy and really fortunate to have got my hands on one. So that's my Balibalistic Lum Tonto, and I really appreciate you guys watching the video, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.